Welcome to the Bourbon Talk Show, the ABV Network's original YouTube series where we interview some of the most interesting people from the world of bourbon. Today on the show, we are talking to Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame distiller Jim Rutledge and entrepreneur Jason Brauner. My name is McNew. Please join me in welcoming our host for the evening, Steve Akley.
Hey gang, how you doing? Hey, so glad to be here. And in your intro there, McNew, you said two of the most interesting, we interview interesting people, and these are two of the most interesting people from the world of bourbon today.
Definitely.
So we have a home run show here tonight. So hello to Jim and Jason. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing great.
Doing great, Steve. Yeah, thanks for having us.
So glad to have you guys here.
Good to see you, Jim, as well.
Good to see you, Jason. Wish I was with you.
Yeah, Jason's on vacation, everyone. So that background is real. That's not a fake background he's got there. So he's enjoying the good life right now. We always kick the show off with just going over some of the latest, what's going on in the world of bourbon. We'd always do three quick stories. So let's do that. And then we will get the show started officially. I don't know if you saw this one, McNew, but Prospect, Kentucky is going to be home to Watch Hill Proper, a club with dining, bar, and lounge options for guests and members. Membership is $1,200 plus $900 per year. Perks include a birthday cocktail, a $25 value.
I mean, I would probably enjoy a $25 cocktail, but
Sure.
It looks lovely. So they've had their soft opening, right? And they've had some different distillers, and it looks very, very nice. I don't know if it's for us, Steve, but it looks nice.
Yeah. I've heard people say good things that have been there. So it's really cool. It's awesome, all that kind of stuff. And I don't have anything against the place. I would visit there. As far as a membership though, where, then I feel compelled, I got to go there because I'm paid to be there. I don't like that idea. An occasional visit. Absolutely. And they do allow to do that.
It has like the old school, like country club vibes is kind of what I'm getting from it, but
yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah. So this will be interesting. It'll be fun to watch, I guess, to see, does this take off? And if so, what happens? Do we see a proliferation of these things, these membership type of things? I don't know. So we'll just have to keep an eye on this one,
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's pretty cool, Steve. I actually had a chance to go there. It was pretty cool. And Bourbon's Bistro old chef is there, Michael Crouch.
Okay.
Making some great food, and it's a cool place. And we're going to try to support it as much as we can.
Okay.
It's a nice spot.
Now, I'm not going to have to pay a membership to Bourbon's Bistro at any point, am I?
Well, I mean, you're carte blanche there, Steve.
Yeah, that'll be next. I'll walk in there and be like, $1,200 plus $900 for the first year. And we're like, what, Jason? Come on, man. We're friends. So yeah, we'll see. That sounds good though. Jim, have you been by there yet?
Not yet. I talked with the guys a year and a half or so ago when it was in the planning stages, and I guess I'm a member there, and I haven't been. I don't get to Louisville that often.
Yeah.
But I hope to get there pretty soon. I've seen the news this morning had one of the news people's out interviewing the guys and showing the place. It's looked very impressive.
Yeah, it does. It does look nice. So yeah. So I'm hoping for good things for him too. McNew, how cool is Jim Rutledge? He's like, I think I got a membership there.
I know.
That is baller, man. That is when you're cool. So yeah, I may drop that line, Jim, at myself, even though it is not based on any truth, just because it sounds so awesome.
Who's gonna check, Steve? Who's gonna know?
Then fact check me, so we'll see. All right. In celebration of its 150th anniversary, Yellowstone Bourbon from Limestone Branch did its first of 3 releases this year of a new the original recipe of used from master distiller Steve Beam's family archives. I think that's pretty cool. Yes. Steve began distilling this back in 2015. It is bottled at 100 proof with a suggested retail of $69.99. Again, 3 releases this year. They're trying to make it a little special, I guess, for the 150th anniversary, spread it out a little bit. So obviously this month, August, and then the 4th quarter. And then after that, it is going to be a yearly release. It's going to be something that they continue to offer. What do you think, McNew?
I think that's exciting. Like, how are you going to not be excited about that? So hopefully we can find some.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the hunt for a bottle that's priced right. I like Yellowstone. I like what Steve Beam does. And the fact it's a little bit different sounds kind of cool, and it's not any sort of, high dollars, special release like that. It's just kind of in line with the Yellowstone pricing. So it's sounds pretty cool to me. So I'm in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Jason, I know you're always at the cutting edge of the stuff with the bar and that. Have you got a chance to try this one yet by chance?
I haven't tried that one yet, but I think we're working on. We try to do a lot of pretty good stuff with the Yellowstone, and we get everything that's available to us. So
yeah, I know they take care of you. Fonte's a big fan of you guys.
Yeah,
so, yeah. So.
Whenever we'll get it, I'm sure I'll have a taste of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, McNew, this last one, you broke this in the club. I saw this online, but I saw you were the first person to put it in our club. So Barton 1792 announced there was discontinuing tours. After, of course, they've got tours booked through April. They'll honor those, but then after that, that's it. No more tours at Barton 1792. What do you think of that?
I'm sad. It was 2017 when I went, and it's one of like the most rustic, like feels like you're working at a distillery kind of tours. Yeah. And I think it's a weird time to stop doing tours because everybody's going to be real excited to get back out this summer. But probably from an insurance perspective, I understand why.
It's a little worn. It's a little worn out looking. Yeah, I get that. But Jim, I have a lot of distiller friends, and of course, these tend to be, the newer distillers. But as they get into it, and they tour the different distilleries. They like Barton a lot. They always say that's one of their favorites because they get to see that old look, and it hadn't been updated, it hadn't been kind of cleaned up for a tour, which so many of them now it's kind of it's all here, walk this line and do this and that, and in reality Barton, it kind of had this what felt like things hadn't changed there. Is that a tour that you enjoyed? Do you like going to Barton when you could?
Oh yeah, I think they had a really nice tour. I hate to see anybody discontinue the tours.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good for Kentucky. It's good for our industry. The more people get out, and it is very rustic, and it's different. It's not tour is not designed around a showboat sort of experience. And I didn't know this until you just mentioned it. My first thought was, I hate to see this disappear because it was a nice tour.
Yeah. And of course, Sazerac, as they do, as the parent company, free tours and stuff like that. So it was just a great deal, very, very, friendly to the bourbon fans. So we hate the fact that's going away. So
yeah,
it's not a good day. Our other guest, Jason, is that Barton 1792? Is that one you like to go to too? Well, he's got the mute problems here. Here he comes.
No, he just did mute himself.
I think he just muted himself. You're on mute, man, for sure. Ask to unmute. I'll try to help you there. Hit the button, should pop up.
All right, I got it.
Okay.
Right? We good?
Yeah.
You're good.
Sorry about that. No, I love Barton. I'm just kind of curious why they did that. I know they've had a couple of accidents down there, a couple of unfortunate things, and I don't know if, would that be why? Because tourism right now is in, it seems like it's at its heyday. They would want to do that. Buffalo, obviously, right there.
We got Fred here from Buffalo Trace, and they're setting records every year. Number of
they're going through the area. Yeah. Buffalo Trace, I think. I don't know. Not really sure. It's unfortunate for sure, but.
Hopefully, maybe it'll come back. Maybe they've got to go through some process, updating a few things or getting some things ready. But I'd like to see it as close to possible as what they had before moving forward. So that'd be cool.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what's going on in the world of bourbon. Some big news there. We had some really good stories there, don't you think, McNew?
Yeah, great news.
Well, good stuff. All right. Our first guest received legendary status in the bourbon industry for his work at Four Roses. But he has managed to increase that status in retirement via his involvement in many successful brands, as well as getting to start his own distillery, which he's still in the process of that. And hopefully he'll give us a little update on that today. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Jim Rutledge. Hey, Jim, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So
great to be with you.
Yeah. So Jim, we always like to kick this off with just kind of a personal question to kind of get to know you a little bit. And obviously you're so entrenched in the bourbon industry. And when I think of bourbon, you're one of those names that pops into my head. So you're so associated with that, but you know, you've got a family, you've got a life outside of bourbon. What are some of the things that you like to do that have absolutely nothing to do with whiskey?
Well, not as much anymore as I get
Right.
older, but for years, one of my favorite hobbies was riding a motorcycle. I've ridden bikes for 45 years or so, and even when I was in New York, I lived about 55 miles north of New York City, where I was commuted by train. I sometimes get home in middle of winter on a stressful day and get on my bike and take a short ride as long as I could stand it, as cold as it was. But
Yeah.
I recently, just this summer, my last bike has been was a BMW 1200 LT. The first time, that's a luxury tour. First time I ever had a luxury tour, and when I got it, I had plans of getting on a bike for couple weeks at least, and just taking off with no map or anything, and probably heading northwest and just touring. But about that time is when we got so busy with Four Roses, and I never had an opportunity to do that. And then I had a heart attack. It was almost about 5 years ago, and I was on so many blood thinners that I was a little bit afraid to get out. I'd
Right.
never gone down on a bike, but if I go down now, I could end up bleeding out before somebody could get to me. So I slowed down. I sold my bike, and I'd love to get a smaller one, just continue. But that big BMW, over 800 pounds dry weight, that was getting a bit too heavy for me. And then, since I was a kid, I've loved to play golf.
Okay.
And about 15 years ago, we live on a golf course right now, about 175, 180 yards, something like that, down from the 10th hole tee. And just about that same time, I'd hurt my back, and I hadn't been able to play. I tried one time last year, and I think I played a couple of holes, and that was all I was able to with my back. So now on the weekends, especially when I was working, instead of on a weekend after working Monday through Friday, coming home and playing a round or two of golf on Saturday and or Sunday, I get to sit in my house and listen to the golf balls hit the roof and the windows quite often.
Oh man.
Those are two of the things I've always liked. When I lived in New York, we lived on a lake, and another escape, I guess. At times I get home, and I just walked down to the end of my driveway, across the street to where I had a canoe tied up. I'd go out and fish for a couple hours at times. And then I think one of the most relaxing things I could still do, I just haven't had time to do it lately. I got into painting with oils when I was in New York, and continued when I got back to Kentucky for a while, but that faded away too when we got so busy, and I was spending 15, 16 hours at times at the distillery, and then I was doing a lot of traveling. So these days, biggest enjoyment I guess I have are my two grandchildren. I have a
Sure.
12-year-old granddaughter and grandson that will turn 4 this month.
Yeah. That's neat. Yeah, the grand father role is a cool role, right? I mean, yeah, you get to have fun with the kids. You get to be cool for them, and then ultimately they get to go home, right? It's not a bad gig.
Well, my 12-year-old granddaughter lives with me, so if I spoil her, I suffer the consequences.
For the consequences. Yeah. Well, a couple of follow-ups from the things you said. You got to send me. I got to see a picture of something you painted. I'd love to see your style in that. So if you've got
I
something,
gave most of them away. I don't know.
you don't even have them.
Might have
Oh
one or
man.
two.
Yeah.
But,
I'd love to see what it looks like. So if you get a chance, that's fine.
All right. If I can find one, I'll take a photograph and send it to you.
Just email it to me or text me, one of the two.
I'll email it to you if I can find something.
Okay, that's cool. And then the other thing, living on a golf course and you're saying, the balls are hitting stray golf balls are hitting your roof, the windows and all that. Has anyone ever been trying to track one down and they run into you and be like, you're Jim Rutledge?
I've had several people
yeah, that would be
come by
cool.
when I'm out mowing or out in the yard doing some kind of work and stop by and just have a conversation.
Yeah. Huh, that would be interesting. So that's kind of neat to think about for sure. So Jim, take us, to the start of your career. And I know I've talked to you before, and of course, but this may be a different audience that hasn't seen any of that. Tell us a little bit about you getting started in the world of bourbon. How did that get going?
Well, when I graduated from the University of Louisville. In the last couple of years, I was working part-time at the one and only Sears Roebuck store in Louisville at the time. And when I graduated, I stayed on. I didn't want to take just the first job offer I had. I had a few, but I wanted to just hold off until I found something I thought I'd like. I mean, I didn't have family in the bourbon industry. One of my best friends that I grew up with a few doors down from me, his dad was in Seagram's R&D. He was been there for his whole career, and I just knew of Seagram, and so it took a while. I stayed on at Sears full time until I had a first offer, and ironically, I had two offers in the same day, one from Philip Morris and one from Seagram. Obviously, I took the Seagram offer, and I started in R&D. I only stayed in there about 6 months or so, and then I moved out into first job was a supervisor in the case goods shipping department, and I ended up and I was working at Seagram's Calvert Distillery in Louisville. It was on 7th, you're not familiar with the Louisville 7th Street Road, the intersection of Central Avenue, and Central Avenue is where Churchill Downs is located. So, we had a group of us to go down there and catch the last two races. We could go get in free after work every day. But I ended up working in every area, a couple different stints as a shift supervisor in the distillery. I worked in a lot in bottling, finished goods warehouse, a little in warehousing, not much. And I spent 11 years at the Calvert Distillery. And one day I was on my way out. I was in a bowling league. I played all the different sports, and in the winter I was also bowling. And I'd had a bad week the week before, and I was going to sneak out early and roll a game before the league started. And I was caught at the going out the gate. The guard says, "Plant manager wants to see you." I said, "God, I didn't even know I was leaving early." So I went over to his office and sat down. He said, "Jim, I got some good news for you. You're being promoted again to New York." And I almost fell out of my chair.
Right.
And I said, "Good news." I said, can't think of anything worse.
Right.
But back in those years, you couldn't get anybody to go to New York out of production plants. No one really wanted it. So you either took the job or took a hike. And so I went to New York. I've spent almost 15 years in New York, and I was manager of the production budgets and standards. So I did cost studies, cost analysis, put together all the labor standards, and passed them on to sales departments, and put together the production division budget. Then my last 4 years there, I also took on, it was a 3-person department, long range distillery planning. So I was doing the long range planning for all the U.S. distilleries. And then I went up to New York in 1977 and came back in 92. About 1990, God worked for all those years, an annual review. He said, "Jim, you've been serious all these years. At the end of the reviews, you asked for if I ever had a chance to get back in distillery operations. I certainly appreciate being considered for it." He said, "You've been serious all these years?" And I thought, "No, I've just been kidding you the last 11 years. And he said, I know, he said, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to retire early. Not sure exactly when, but I'm going to do what things worked out so well with us here that I'm going to do what I can to get you back. And he was true to his word. I got transferred back to Kentucky, and as a Kentucky area manager, administrative manager, and I was at the barrel warehouse facility at Cottage Creek. And November, I went back up to New York to fill in for somebody for a couple months in September and October 94. When I came back, I was transferred to Four Roses Distillery and became the distiller, of course, and Kentucky area manager. Started right away, but it was officially in January 1995, and that's how I got my start at Four Roses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And obviously we know what happens from there. I mean, the complete turnaround of a brand, and one of the biggest distilleries in the day, still doing the things that you kind of initiated when you were there.
Well,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I said when I was given a choice, do you want to go or not? Said the distillery, we were number one at the time in 1988. Now, our market bourbon industry been sliding every year from about 1968 for 20 to 25 years. But in 1988, of course, what you're bottled in 1988, you're putting in the barrel in the early 80s, and your long range planning is based on those trends. And in 1988, the Japanese market didn't start growing, shot through the roof, and caught our industry with our pants down. And none of us were prepared for it, especially us as number one bourbon. And so the distillery made a lot of mistakes. They started focusing on quantity versus quality. They got everything mixed up, and for about 3 years, they've been producing some pretty bad distillates. And so I was given an opportunity when I went there in November 94, when we were shut it down in June of 1995 for the summer maintenance program. I couldn't tell anybody, but they were going to shut the distillery down, let everybody go. We already had a contract with another distillery to produce for Four Roses bourbon was only in international markets at that time, and sell the distillery proper. And so I jumped at the opportunity. And so from November through June, I know I averaged over 16 hours a day there. I'd always see the midnight shift. I wouldn't leave till the midnight shift came on, and I'd be back in the mornings when they left.
Yeah.
And I talk quality. I'd spend the first 8 hours of a normal day. I'd take maybe 3 trips plus or minus through the distillery. But when everybody else left at 4:30, I'd spend the next shift entirely in the distillery with the distillery operators. And we formed a really tight relationship, a bond. And they didn't believe me. He says, we always hear, everybody says they're going to focus on quality. I said, you'll see. Mm-hmm. And we had this really good relationship, and we all started working together rather than sort of friction. And together, it wasn't me, it was everybody. And I thought I still do. We had the best employees in the industry, and I love the guys, and but together we succeeded. And I guess when the distillery shut down, of course, the financial people in New York were still salivating over all the overhead they were going to save by getting rid of the distillery and having somebody else produce for us. But corporate quality jumped in and said, we can't afford to overrode the financial people, so we can't afford to lose the distillery. What they're making is too good. And it was 3 years after that, I think it was in 98, our little distillery won the top Seagram Quality Award in North America. So we were successful, and it was all of us working together that made it a success.
Yeah. Of course, one person in particular you will always be intertwined with. And that's, of course, the great Al Young. And tell us a little bit about your relationship with him, both working as well as outside of the workplace. Were you guys buddies? I guess would be the
well, and we've known each other. Al started probably about 8 or 9 months after I did at the same Calvert Distillery. And when he started, he, like most new people coming, he started in the control lab, spent the first few months there. His first supervisory position was in bottling. And he came over. I was the one who showed him around bottling, told him what he was going to do. And I was a step above that. So that's how we got to know each other. And he worked in bottling. We worked together for a while. I was transferred out to Finished Goods Warehouse before I went to New York. And we weren't working together much then, but as far as on the outside, basically it was the company summer picnics, Christmas dinners, and we'd always have music and a lot of fun, and we spent time together like that. And then in 1982, I was in New York, and one of the hardest things I ever did, I did the financial analysis because Seagram had to shut a distillery down. I did everything I could to try to save the Louisville plant, but I couldn't. That's the distillery that we shut down. And Al was transferred to Lawrenceburg. He spent his whole time there. I think he might have spent a little time in the distillery, but not much. Just about his whole time there was warehouse supervisor. And then he was transferred to Kentucky, maybe just a little bit before I got back in 92, early 92 or late 91 as a distillery supervisor. And he stayed in that position until I got there and until Seagram went out of business. And it was about, Karen took over ownership after Seagram went out of business at the end of 2001. And in 2003, he loved the brand, he loved the history, and I got him transferred out of supervision into we wanted a brand ambassador, and I got him transferred into that position.
Yeah. What a great role that ended up being, not only for him personally, but for us, the fans. I mean, he was so great, right? I mean, he really found his place there.
He was perfect for that position. And I know the happiest years of his long career with Seagram and Four Roses. That was the highlight of his entire career was that job. He loved it.
Yeah.
And he was perfect.
Yeah. He was perfect. Yeah. And you can't replace him. I mean, the knowledge that he had, from his years working there, and it just, he was definitely special. And we're all better off for having known him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jim, since leaving Four Roses, you've been working on opening JW Rutledge Distillery. And of course, during this journey, there's been a lot happening. We're talking market up and downs, heart attack, global pandemic, and then several times, you've reported it very close. But it is something that you're continuing to work on. And we even talked about it a little bit off the air, but just give an update to the audience, kind of where you're at on getting your distillery going.
Yeah, I retired from Four Roses in September 2015. And people asked me, how'd you get involved in the distillery? I said, well, it took me about a week of retirement, which consists of one Sunday and 6 Saturdays, to realize, hey, this isn't going to be my cup of tea. And so I knew two of my partners, Stephen Camisa and John Mowry. They own a company, Bedford and Grove, which assists startup distilleries, small distilleries. They have some international clients they work for to assist in marketing, sales, and compliance. That's a big thing. And so Stephen approached me, and he wanted to get to a craft, maybe build a craft distillery. And we looked at some craft distilleries, a couple of them. And I remember going out and spending a day. I guess I shouldn't mention the distillery, but it was a small distillery at the time. It's very successful. It was Smooth Ambler, West Virginia. I mean, they've come a long way. But back then they hadn't been going very long. We went out there and I met some of the investors, of course, John Little and his staff, and absolutely great people. I really enjoyed them. But by the end of the day, I was in my chair, let's go. And the Four Roses was the smallest of the 8 major distilleries in Kentucky, and we averaged about 285 barrels being filled a day. And they were excited that day because they thought they might get 2 barrels instead of 1. And I said, I can't do this. Go from 285 barrels and excited about filling 2 barrels in a day. And so on a drive back, I told Steve, and there's another guy with us, that if we're going to do something, I don't want it to be a hobby. Let's do something that will make some money and be exciting. And let's start a mid-sized distillery. Now, in retrospect, if we'd have started small, we'd have been there a long time ago, and we'd have been up to a mid-size by now. But that's, it's hindsight. So we've, again, I did that kind of work in New York. So I put together a financial package, and I'm not an accountant, so it wasn't done by what is it, generally accepted accounting rules of any kind. Yeah. But I knew every operation, and I could visualize everything, and then calculating the cost and putting everything together. And we did that through most of 2016 and into 2017. We're still revising. Like I said earlier, just had to revise everything again because of the impact of COVID. But in 2017, story's too long how we got connected, but a multi-billionaire decided to invest in us and provide all the capital we needed. And we worked with him from about late February through September, and he came down. I had a heart attack in May of 2017. He came down 3 weeks after that, and I took him, and he owned his own investment firm to handle his investments. And I think he brought 3 of those members. They flew down and to Louisville, and I met them. I thought they probably had a small plane. It wasn't a small one. It was like one of these big jets that the 4 of them got off. And he just couldn't understand how a distillery in rural Kentucky could ever be successful. He just couldn't visualize it. Right. So when he got off the plane, the first thing I did was take him to Woodford Reserve, and he got the idea quick. Then we went out and looked at property we were at the time interested in. And in September, moving on, they had the board meeting. That's what they're waiting on. And on a Wednesday in middle of September, we got a call about 5 in the afternoon, I think. It said, "You got your money." The board voted 8-0. Let's go for it. Okay. And I know Thursday, they were calling the real estate agent of the property we're looking at. The owner owned 220 acres that we weren't going to buy on the other side of the road. If we buy both pieces of property, can we get a discount? And Friday morning, we got another call. The guy that with the money walked in, and I guess he just wasn't too good a mood, probably up most of the night, said, "I've decided against investing in a distillery. I don't know enough about it to control my money." And there were some other maybe political reasons. But, Wednesday we had the money. A day and a half later, it's taken away. Yeah. And my heart just went boom, all of ours did. We didn't do much the rest of the year. And in 2018, we got with a group that was raising money. They did well the first year. And then in 2018, COVID hit 2019. And we severed that relationship. Not much was happening. And then in 2020, there was a couple people from California that were very interested in a distillery and putting up all the money. And one of them had an accident and died in January. And so that ended.
Yeah.
So we connected with a group that changed their names. It's Craftsman Capital Partners, and they had some people ahead of us that they were raising money for, and this group they raised money all over the U.S. and the first group we were with was primarily local money, but this opened the page up. They have international clients that they work with, and we're doing very well right now. We're looking very good. They didn't really start actively raising money until about last August, I think. So we're looking very good right now.
Nice, nice. Well, I think we're all looking forward to that. So keep us posted, and yeah, we can't wait to get you back into the distillery making some whiskey for sure.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
Well, you haven't just been sitting around either. You have launched a couple brands,
Yeah.
Cream of Kentucky, High Plains Rye. So tell us a little bit about that.
But one of the things we found in trying to raise money for our project, there's so many brands being introduced daily at distributors, and one of the big questions is, how do you know you can get distribution? Most small distilleries, have maybe most of them just state and regional distribution. And so, with the group we have over 160 years experience right now. And myself, and then Stephen Cabisa was one time legal counsel and heavily involved in marketing at Buffalo Trace. His partner out in California has been in sales his entire career, also worked for Sazerac and other companies. Then we took on a fourth partner when he retired from Southern Glacier Wine and Spirits. So he had been with the Southern since about the beginning when it was a small Florida distributor, now the world's largest. He was always in executive positions. So we have production experience and financial, of course, with budgets and standards, myself, Stephen with marketing, legal experience, John in sales, distribution. We have that. We have everything except really financial. And so we'll hire a CPA and a controller once we get going. But we realized we needed one of the things that was missing that people were asking: how do you know you can get distribution? You can talk all you want, but that's could be hot air. We don't know for an investor, perhaps. So Stephen and John had acquired this Cream of Kentucky label just on speculation, a little before we got our project started, because it was an old, very historic, very successful brand in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It was a Shinley brand. And then they came up with another name, High Plains, on their own. So we got it started. We decided, let's try to get a Kentucky bourbon. And we found one, and it was 11 years old when we started with it. And we originally had the first contract NDA. We couldn't reveal the source, but then that disappeared and people were guessing it anyway. It was all over the internet. It was a bar brand. It was very good bourbon. So we introduced that, and we had 5 ultimate releases of Cream of Kentucky. And then that inventory ran out, and the demand for bourbon, especially Kentucky bourbon right now, is way up here, and the supplies down here. It's hard to find any, and we weren't successful. So we couldn't find anything we wanted to put in a bottle. I know I found some 4-year-old of some of the first bourbon we had distilled for one of the guys I started with, actually, at Castle and Key. And I said, this is unbelievable. I liked it as much as what we've been filling the bottles with, of much older. But before we could get the money together to buy 100 or 200 barrels, they had already sold them all. And so it's from one thing after another. It's hard to find anything. So we decided, I said, let's do something with High Plains. And instead of, I've always, people heard that I've always loved to distill a rye. As the next best thing is let's have a rye this time around with High Plains, and let's take a page out of the Scotch book and let's do some blending of multiple blends and distilleries. And I said, when we do it, I've always been transparent. We'll put the source of every distillery on the back label, and it is. But we ended up using 5 straight rye whiskeys. We can't call it a straight, of course, but we use a blend of 5 straight rye whiskeys and from 4 states. It was New York Distilling Company in Brooklyn, Middle West Spirits in Columbus, Ohio, of course, MGP, and then Kentucky Artisan Distillery in Crestwood, Kentucky, so
Yeah.
right outside of Louisville. And that was pretty successful. I mean, we could only get 4-year-old rye. And I had a lot of fun blending. I don't know how many blends, probably 100 or more. I don't know. Blending them together and trying to blend out heat, blended flavor. But we came up with something pretty good for a 4-year-old. A lot of people would guess it, 2 or 3 years older than the 4 years. But that's been pretty successful. Not as successful as Cream of Kentucky. Cream of Kentucky was a historic name and it was easy to get out. Now, nobody had ever heard of a name that had never been a label on a bottle of High Plains. But that's it's had a lot of good reviews and that's taken off and doing well now.
Oh, good to hear. Well, guess what? It is now a McNew question time. My co-host to ask a question in the middle of the interview. So McNew, it is your turn. What do you got?
Yeah, Jim. So if somebody new approached you and said, hey, Jim, I want to start my own brand, what advice would you give them? Pros and cons? Would you even recommend somebody starting a brand right now?
The first thing, make people aware of how hard it is to get into our industry. I mean, if you start a distillery now, and let's say it's a small distillery and they can get it built and equipment installed in a year and a half. And then you start distilling, putting barrels away, and you're waiting. A lot of distilleries have to come out. They put something that's not very good in a 2-year-old in a bottle and charge an enormous fee just to get some positive cash flow. And but for the good stuff, you have to be at least 4 years, 5 or 6 years. So in all, you're starting up, you're a year and a half to build. You get 4 years before you begin, or 5 years before you get into some cash flow that's in the block. Make them aware of the cost and that period of time. And then, I've talked to a lot of people that have discussed this very question. And then I've always talk about the quality. I said, to me, you don't ever focus on how many barrels you get in a day. Make sure it's quality, and that begins with your source of grains, the approval of the grains before you unload at the distillery, milling, mashing, cooking, fermentation. That's where all the flavors are generated. You can screw something up if you don't run your still right, but you can't do something wrong up front in any of those areas and then distill something that's good that wasn't done right up front. Make them aware of all this. And I said, everybody has sometimes some bad grain, or for whatever reason might have something that's rejected. I said, Four Roses, when we have a reject, and it's not very often, but when we do, we'll sell it and we don't barrel it. And I've had people tell me, you mean you can tell whether it's good or bad before it goes in a barrel? I'm thinking, oh my gosh. But that's when people start up, my focus 90% of my time was on what goes into the barrel, not what comes out. And but that's critical. And so many people think if they can figure out a way to buy some grain, figure out a way to mill it, and cook it, and ferment it, and then they'll run it through a still, put it in a barrel, and at the end of 4 or 5 years, they have a gold mine. It doesn't work that way. I mean, it's every step of the way. And I make people aware. And if they want to, and go ahead, but uh, I think it's only fair to tell somebody the hardships, because there's so many distilleries that do start up that can't make it through this, the dry period. And so I just try to make people aware when I do have these conversations of every phase of the process.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a get rich quick business. And I
Definitely
think a
not.
lot of people jump
It's,
in thinking
that's something, a lot of investors want a quick turnaround on the money. And this is not an industry to get in. It's a safe industry. It's a very safe investment, but it's long-term. It's, it's not going to turn it around and double or triple your money in 4 or 5 years. That's about the time you're getting started.
Yeah. So I know that you've done, contract distillation at Castle and Key, and you talked a little bit about, making some of that available through Blue Run and that. Are you still actively now? Do you still work in the still and laying down some whiskey?
Well, I was keeping Castle and Key running several months out of the year. And then they had an investor come in at the end of 2020, and I was working with several groups, and Castle Key was just fantastic. I love the people there and working there, and they just let me take over the distillery. And I'd always talk with the operators, every change I'd make, different what they were doing. I explained why, what we hope to achieve, if something wasn't right. And I'd say, let's try this. If we don't try this, we'll try something else, and explain every step away to the operators. And we had a good relationship, and I really enjoyed it. And then last year, 2020, I was running for Blue Run Spirits and a couple other brands, and then a couple of large groups came in to produce fill barrels, not to have their own brand, but filling on speculation. Again, it's one of the things, filling today, back then, I'm not sure, it was $750 more now, but to fill a barrel, then you have the ins and outs of a warehouse and monthly fees. But at the end of 3 or 4 years, they might, 4 times or 5 times their cost. They would make they're putting away based on their speculation that this boom is going to continue, which I agree with that. Then Castle Key had a large investor coming in, and I think it was toward the end of 2020. Then 2021, all these people that I've been producing for, they were calling me and telling me, said, Castle Key won't give us any time. They were booked. The investor was filling in all the time. And so all of a sudden I was out of Castle and Key in 2021. At the end of last year, one of the guys I've been doing some work with, his brand's gonna be Big Blue Bourbon, but he got it about a week and a half of time. So we had that. And that's the only job I had at Castle Key in 2021. So like Blue Run Spirits, we've had a few runs at 3 runs, I think, at Bardstown Bourbon Company, but now you can't get there. Bardstown Bourbon Company is now taking bookings out into 2026.
Wow.
And a lot of the other distilleries, I've had people that I've worked with for several years go around to every distillery, and everybody's 2024, 2025 before you can get a booking. And Blue Run Spirits, they came to me, and it's looking promising. Let's say we do get money this year for our distillery project, and let's say on the outside it take 2 years to get it going. So we're out in 2024. They can book with us before they can get a contract somewhere else. And so like Blue Run sent me, I told them it would be non-binding, a non-binding letter of intent. They wanted the first 10,000 barrels that we would contract. When we start up, we'll do mostly contract and then ourselves. And as we progress through the years, it'll be a sliding scale.
Yeah.
And so we will have contract distillation openings for a number of years. And I've had other people approach me. One other person said, we haven't got anything from them. They might think about up to 20,000 barrels a year. So I think we'll fill up the day it's announced. We'll have our contract distillation, and then the people raising the money and some others, even on my own team, maybe we ought to double our distillation capacity.
Yeah.
Right? But that's more money. We got to get started, to me, before we start doubling. And but we will build the distillery in a way that we can add on to it and not look like it's an add-on.
Yeah.
And so that's where we'll approach it.
Yeah. Jim, in the intro, mentioned the fact that you are a Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame inductee. And, I love the concept of the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame, a capstone way to honor individuals that have helped, Kentucky bourbon. I think it's very cool and a great idea in terms of an organization. But I do think there's a gaping hole there because, they recognize obviously distillers and people that affiliate with distilleries, owners too. They recognize, people in the media. They've done that. They've done politicians that have done some legislation that have helped bourbon. They've done people that work for the KDA and that helped with things like the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, but not any bourbon bar owners. And I think we've got the original guy on this show here, the person that should be in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame, Mr. Jason Brauner. What do you feel about that? Do you feel like somebody like bourbon bars, because, my case is, how many bourbon drinkers come to bourbon because they taste things at a bourbon bar and it gets them interested, or they like bourbon and they go to the bourbon bar to explore and try new things. And maybe that's where they decide they like cream of Kentucky, that, because they can get it by the pour there. What do you think about, Jason, and does he have a legit case to get into the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame?
I guess the first thing I have to say is, Jason, put your fingers in your ears. I don't want you So yeah, Bourbon's Bistro, when Jason opened that, I mean, it was an immediate hit. The restaurant's great, the food's great. When you walk in the restaurant, you walk right by the bar. And I don't know how many bourbon brands Jason has, 200, 250.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot.
maybe way off. I may be out in left field. I'm not sure. But and Jason's a huge bourbon fan. I don't know. Can't remember how many private barrel selections we did, Jason. 12, 13, something like that.
The last one I did was 25.
25
just for
private barrel
Four Roses.
selections with us.
Yeah.
Good grief. But I always wanted to be there, and we always had a lot of fun. From the bar, the private barrel selections, they all promote, this was done for Four Roses, but when something's good and he serves it at his bar, even if it was private barrel from Four Roses or anywhere else, it's great for the entire industry.
Yes.
And he's an avenue to get that word out. And he's a huge supporter of Kentucky bourbon. I am absolutely, totally in favor of Jason and others that are doing the same type work. But to me, Jason should be in the Bourbon Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Without doubt. And I hope you didn't hear me. I hope you had your fingers in your ear. I don't want you to know what I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate that. I know, we've had a long relationship over the years, and it's funny. There's a story, but we'll deal with that at another time. But it was I was taking a class that Jim gave, at Shelby campus, but that's for another time. Yeah.
Well, as long as I've got a job where I've got a microphone, I'm going to keep saying Jason Brauner needs to go in the Hall of Fame. Jason Brauner needs to go to the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. Jason Brauner needs to go in the Kentucky Bourbon.
And you can say, I echo every time you say it.
Yes, that's
absolutely.
That's good.
And thank both of you. When I was growing up, did I think, I mean, what do I want to be a race car driver. I want to be an astronaut.
Baseball player. Yeah.
Baseball player. Do I want to be in the, when I had no ties to bourbon at all, do I want to be in the Hall of Fame? Of bourbon, it would be to now it'd be unbelievable for me. But I didn't growing up, you would never think you would be in this position.
Yeah. Well, it's going to happen. I've
That happened to me
confidence.
too, Jason. When I was growing up,
Right.
the first time I heard of 7 and 7, I knew what one of them was 7 Up. I didn't know what the other was. And
Well,
when I started the job at Seagram, my mother thought the world had come to an end. She was a teetotaler, and she said, "You can't work there."
and Jim, I'll give you kudos. I still think you've made the best whiskey on the planet. And kudos to that. And I love riding Harleys as well. And the only other thing I heard we were talking about is I'm going to have to ask you what's your high game in bowling?
My high game, 279.
279.
Oh, damn it.
What was
Yeah,
it, Jason?
I had 9 strikes in a row, and in the 10th frame, I had best. I still visualize this. It irritates me, but I had a solid hit and left a solid 10. Picked that up and then struck out, and that's a 279. I had one 9-pin spare and 11.
That's a heartbreaker. I've had a 256 is all I've had. So we should get together and maybe roll a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could. I had my game improved dramatically when we went from a regular bowling ball to a fingertip, and up in New York, and I increased. I last year there, the last 4 months when I got the fingertip ball, I averaged it was about 219, I think, for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I'm in the 180s right now. So, we need to get together.
Sounds
I
good.
don't know if I could throw a 16-pound ball anymore.
No, what's cool is they don't even do 16-pound balls anymore. They've got 14-pound balls that have such a bigger break, and all this technology's gone crazy. It's like golf too. I love
That's
to golf.
what I have, though.
Yeah.
We need to go out and golf if you want to do that too. Love to.
Oh yeah, you're taking advantage of what I just told you. My back would
Yes.
the club.
Oh yeah.
No
He'll
wonder
be
you want to play now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm down to about 11, and I wanted to get to a single digit golfing, and last year I was down to a 9, and 50 years old, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had a pretty good handicap back in the 70s before I went to New York, and that destroyed me. But I need 9 a hole.
So Jim, today, when it comes to a bourbon, what do you drink? Do you just drink stuff that you've put together or been affiliated with, or do you like to still explore and try different things?
I don't get out in restaurants that much anymore, in bars occasionally. So when I do, I drink Cream of Kentucky. I had a High Plains Perfect Manhattan recently, and that was really good. And Four Roses.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I was working all my years, I have to say the same thing. I was asked all the time, Jim, when you walk into a bar and they don't have Four Roses, what do you drink? And my answer was always Diet Coke. And then I'd explain why. Is that I love this industry and everybody in it. I have never said a negative word about anybody. I never will. And if I said, and I'm just going to run off a few, if I said it was Maker's Mark or Woodford's or Jim Beam Black or 1792, if I said one of those, that would mean, they would be second, and then everybody else less than that. So I've never, ever said what I like after those. And it's for a reason. To me, it's a good reason for myself.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, the last question. We always have fun with the last question, and I guarantee you haven't been asked this on a bourbon interview before. How good are you at yard work? Is that something that you're into? And what, if I walk by, are you doing that yard work? You said you're out cutting grass before when you're talking golf, and so I'm thinking you are. And how good does this look? Am I thinking, wow, this is golf course worthy, or is it just you just kind of do the basics?
Oh, years ago, I remember one home we moved in when we got back from New York. I took out all the landscaping and I just sort of visualized everything and sketched what I wanted, something tall on the corners, something like that, and the different type landscaping. But I did everything, took everything out myself and planted everything. Now if I tried it, I'd have to crawl in the house if I could get back in.
Find muscles you didn't
So
know
I'm
you had.
limited. I really am right now. I love doing that. I just can't anymore. I sit on a mower, a zero turn mower, and but even and then a couple years ago, I bought, instead of a gas powered trimmer, weed eater, whatever you want, I got electric because it was lighter weight. But even then, I have to break something up. I trim the driveway and maybe it will finish it, but then going around the house, that would have to be, I have to go in and sit down for a couple hours and rest my back, maybe put some ice on it.
Yeah.
So I can't do much anymore, but yeah. And that's even as little as I do though. Something to me, my wife's always telling me, get somebody to do it. You're getting old. No kidding. But you're getting old, get somebody to do it for you. I said, that's something that relaxes. I love doing.
Yeah.
But I'm limited on what I can do. It's basically mowing and talking to golfers, and so I wish I could be out there with you and doing a little trimming.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Jim,
that was an interesting question and a bourbon.
Yes, it was. Thank you for joining us today, Jim. Let's hear it from Mr. Jim Rutledge.
Jim, thank you very much.
Yeah, please stick around. We'll let you plug any of the businesses you like, anything like that at the end. And of course, we like to stick around, and if the audience has any questions after we turn off the recording.
Sure.
Too.
Absolutely.
With that, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking to Jason Brauner. We'll do that in just a few.
Today's show is sponsored by Moonshine University. Moonshine University offers programs to assist individuals in the bourbon industry or simply fans wanting to step up their knowledge. Whether you are looking for in-person learning at the classrooms of Moonshine University or looking for self-study online, there are options to fit your unique needs. Check them out at moonshineuniversity.com. We are also sponsored by the ABV Network's Distiller Summit in Key West, Florida. The six-day event features events and networking opportunities from January 24th through 30th, 2023, when there's no better place in the world to be than sunny Key West. Get more information on our website at abvnetwork.com.
Absolutely. We need to get Mr. Rutledge and Mr. Brauner down there next year. That'd be nice.
Oh, for sure. It's a blast, guys. I
Key
totally
West
regret not
in
getting there
January.
this year.
Yeah, it's for sure. That's fun stuff. All right. Our next guest is a pioneer in the bar industry by focusing exclusively on bourbon, which he used his creativity to innovate many of the standards of what a bourbon bar should be. You see many copycats these days. He's been known for his palate via his barrel picks at his place, Bourbon's Bistro, for years, but today he's also known for his own whiskey brand, Buzzard's Roost. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jason Brauner. Jason, how you doing, buddy?
And then all of a sudden he froze up.
Yeah. I think he froze up. Yeah. Jason froze up there, I think. So hopefully he'll be back soon. It's a bad time to freeze up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. McNew, we'll have to have you answer Jason's questions. Are you prepared to do this?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, yeah.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay. Hey, are you with us, Jason? Or did he freeze up again?
Might have froze up again.
Yeah. He'll be back. He just dropped off. Oh, there he is. Okay. You with us now?
I am.
It's live TV, so yes, it happens. So
it's good that you're back because I was going to fill in answers. So welcome.
Yeah.
I'm in a house with about 20 people here, and everybody's on the internet.
Yeah, I get it. So Jason, you started as an entrepreneur at a very young age. So you got going. I mean, your pizza place before Bourbon's Bistro, you were very young when you opened that. Had you not decided to go that route, to be an entrepreneur, to own your own business, what do you think? What career path do you think you might have taken should that have not been something that you did?
I probably would have been. I mean, my father's a welder.
Yeah.
So I didn't learn that until later on in life, and I and I didn't really necessarily learn it for necessity, but I could have. So I'm a pretty decent welder, bricklayer, all around bum, probably living under the 2nd Street Bridge in Louisville.
That would have been where you ended up.
Yeah, but I've worked construction kind of on and off my whole life.
Yeah.
So just kind of fighting my way through it.
Yeah. Well, these days, of course, Buzzard's Roost is the big thing, but we can't forget about Bourbon's Bistro. I want to talk about that for just a little bit. So give us an update on what's going on at Bourbon's Bistro, and are you kind of back to where you were at pre-pandemic at this point, or where is the bar standing these days?
We're actually seeing some numbers from 2019.
Good.
That are coming back around, and we're real happy with that, obviously. It's been a long, hard road, but Bourbons is, we've been there for 17 years. And I always say, you've heard me say it before, it's 17 years to be an overnight success.
Right.
So, now people are really appreciating us, especially the people that are coming into the bourbon industry, and appreciating what we're doing and what we've been doing for a long time. So, it's actually, knock on wood, it's going pretty well.
Good to hear. Buzzard's Roost seems to be exploding. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, as I look at what you got going on, I mean, I see it more and more on social media. I keep seeing distribution is expanding. So you got it in different states. You guys are winning awards. I'm seeing more interviews with you, podcasts and those type of things, and write-ups in the media. Is this all good right now, or have there been some growing pains to get to where you're at right now?
I think that, honestly, Steve, everything's, everybody on here has got to believe that there's growing pains with everything.
Right.
And it's but when, you've heard it 100 times, what you like, what you do, it's not like it's going to work. And I do spend a lot of time in my industry, and a lot of time at what I do. Even when I'm on vacation, I love doing this,
right.
Because, when you do what you like to do, it doesn't seem to be work.
It's always fun. Yeah, I agree. So when you have a brand like a Buzzard's Roost, what are your plans with that? I mean, do you just plan through the end of the year, or do you have like a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year? Do you go that far out where you think this thing might go?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and I shouldn't speak to them now, but we want to be a long-term company.
Right.
I'd love to have a distillery just like Jim, and hopefully I would love to pair up with him one day, because Jim is, has been, has not been. It's not really, I always consider him my mentor.
Right.
So what a great show to be on with him. But, not that I've learned close from him, but I always wanted that relationship, and we've always been friends throughout the years, and it's just I don't know, man. It's just a cool business to be in. I'm flabbergasted, right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us an update. I know you were on a show with us earlier where you talked a little bit about this, kind of experimental tasting room. You got a small still. You'll be able to taste out your whiskeys. You'll be doing some different experiments on that still. Tell us a little bit about where that stands right here, right now.
Yeah, we're in the permitting process right now, but we're going to be on Main Street, right down there, Whiskey Row, what everybody's calling it now.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It used to be. We're actually right next to Morton's, a couple of doors up from 21C, a couple of doors down from Michter's, and, Old Forester's up the road. But we're going to do a bar, a tasting room. We've bought a little a pot still that we're going to run some new make through. So we're going to clean it up. We're going to run some first run through, and then clean up, put it in our barrels, and we're all about our barrel aging. So hopefully we'll have some of our distillate this year, or somewhat of our distillate going into our barrels. This year, probably fall.
In fall, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? It is now time for a McNew question. McNew, you are up.
All right. So all the expressions of Buzzard Roost, great sipping whiskeys, all great neat pours. But if you're going to put one in a cocktail, what cocktail would you make with it?
McNew, I'm not a big cocktail fan, but I'm trying to get into it. I'm a big fan of the paper plane.
And your restaurant has a fantastic paper plane. It's my favorite.
Yeah. So, you've got the Manhattan, and you've got, and some of our labels work well in like a smoked Manhattan. It's just, I'm not a big cocktail fan, but I love a good paper plane. I just love sipping whiskey,
Yeah, it's a good answer. Fair answer.
Yep. Jason, we've seen a lot of releases coming out from Buzzard Brewers. There's been a lot of activity. It seems like a lot of cool new products. So give us an update. What have you had just coming out recently, just so we can kind of keep track of it? And what do you got coming out here in the near future?
Well, Steve, what we've been doing is we've been experimenting with the barrel program, and I'm working very closely with Independent Stave Company and their barrel innovation program. And Jim, I think we could talk about this for a second. Would you agree that about 70% of the flavor comes from the barrel?
Yeah, I've always said about 2/3. So you're right in the ballpark.
2/3 is right there. So what we've done is we're very transparent about what we do, Steve. You've always known that. And we get a lot of people are sourcing. We're all agreeing to that. We're sourcing good whiskey. We have decent palates. We've been in it for a while. Obviously, I haven't been as long as Jim, and I try to say that, but I'm approaching 17 years. So, I'm talking to kind of the newbies under me, Jim. I'm no disrespect by any means. You've been a way longer than I have, but
49 years.
Just 49 years.
No,
yeah.
No, 40, not quite.
Well, I'm only 50 some odd. So
Well,
anyhow, I love this man to death. But we're working with the barrels, and kind of everybody's sourcing, so we're working our way backwards. If 70% of the flavor comes from the barrel, I'm working with Independent Stave and kind of reverse engineering, working backwards, trying to pull some flavors out of those barrels that maybe the big guys didn't have the company or the technology to see that. So we're doing a number one char exclusively. We're doing heavily toasted barrels, trying to bring those flavors to the surface and exposing those, the whiskey to the flavors a little earlier with the number one char and those heavy toasts. So we're just we're experimenting here, and it's seems to be working so far.
Yeah. So I want to see if I can put this together here, because we've got an interesting situation. We got a guy who owns a whiskey brand and is doing some unique and interesting things with it. On the same show tonight, we've got one of the greatest distillers of all time, perhaps the greatest distiller of all time. We got you both on the same show. You guys both good friends. There's kind of a mutual admiration and respect, professional respect. I feel you get that coming through as this conversation is going on. Could there ever be a Buzzard's Roost collaboration and a JW Rutledge, something we see you guys work together on? I don't know. ABV Network is the third partner, just kind of.
I would only wish that. I would only wish.
No, and I would, let's assume that we get the distillery going, and I would love to, unless Jason has his own distillery going at the time, but we could partner. We could run produce and fill barrels of the ones with his #1 char and heavy toast, and put them away and do them for him.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I
a
know
buyer.
that
I'm a
I
buyer.
agree with what you're. I'm sorry, Steve. What'd you say?
I'm a buyer on this. This sounds like a good collaboration. I'm in. I'll
Yeah.
Venmo you some money.
Oh.
Do you Venmo? Rutledge?
Yeah, one of the things I think it was back in '94, right around there, Independence Day ran a lot of different tests on different char levels, different woods for all the customers. And, we put barrels away and we come back and look at them. And I remember when they had just some toasted barrels, and I thought, when we get started, I would want to do that. But just the toasted barrels, I thought, man, gosh, it's not going to have any color. The flavor, I don't know what's going to happen. But there was a unique flavor. It's very sweet. When you have most distilleries are in a 3 and 4 toasted range, and I know one may be up as high as 6 or 7. And but the more you burn away, the less sugar that's left, less wood there. And when you toast it, you have more flavor potential by doing that. And I was really amazed that the color, just if it toasted, was just as good as a 4 char. So you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were doing this, but I was thinking, boy, it's a good idea.
Yeah. There you go. So, Jason, when you and I first became friends, and it's been about 5 years ago now, when I first started coming around, you talked, and you were pretty open, like you are on anything that we do. You're very open, and you said, one of the things that kind of hurts just a little bit is the fact that you have this national recognition. People, you're on the list of the top bourbon bars, and people care about you on a nation. When they travel into Louisville, they make sure they got to hit Bourbon's Bistro. But you felt that there was a little bit of apathy kind of from the locals and stuff like that. It was like, there's other things. They're going to the shiny new restaurant and stuff like that. But it seems like it's definitely turned the corner recently, where Bourbon's Bistro has suddenly become hot again. I see you guys winning a lot of awards and stuff like that. I saw you got one of the Whiskey Icon Awards. I mean, I think there's a lot of good things going on that are a testament to, and you talked about the numbers coming back, after COVID here. So seems to be good things going on. How good does that make you feel? Again, something that, was your baby, and you built this thing up, and it seems like it's kind of what's old is new again. Maybe people are really into, going to Bourbon's Bistro.
Yeah. And Steve, we kind of thought that in the beginning it was undermarketed and what have you, but I always say this going forward, that it took me 17 years to be an overnight success.
Right. Right.
Bourbon has been in our backyard since day one, and it's been underappreciated, and we've been a big fan of it for a long time. So, we've had a lot of support from people like Jim, from people like Maker's Mark and Woodford Reserve. Who knows? Beam. Everybody's done it. We've done single barrels, and we've done flights and whatever. We're just trying to educate the world about whiskey and bourbon whiskey from Kentucky. So it's just it's been a long road coming, and they always said if you do what you enjoy, the money comes later. But it's not about that. It's just like Jim talked about working 16 hours a day, and you don't want to interview my wife about that. Opening up Bourbon's Bistro, you just don't want to do that, because I just got what needed to be done that day, whether it was 16 hours or 18 hours. We just got it done. So I love everybody in the industry. It's a great industry to be in. And I was accepted as a young kind of punk, I guess. I think Jim and I didn't, I don't know that he liked me at first, but Hopefully,
he's come around now. He's come around.
yeah,
I think.
hopefully, have won his respect, and I feel he's one of my mentors in this business.
Yeah. Well, that success with Bourbon's Bistro, it's no accident. I mean, you just always did the right things. You ran the bar the right way. You were a great place to go. The food is always good too. That's a key part of it too. Because what brings you back time and time again? You come in. I always say you might have your best bourbon bar experience going to Bourbon's Bistro, and you just might have your best meal in Louisville, which is a foodie town, at Bourbon's Bistro. So you just got a great place, man. It all comes together there.
Steve, we appreciate that, but when you're doing it live, you don't
It's
really
tough, right?
realize
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. I get it. Yeah.
It's good to hear that on the backside.
Yeah. Well, our last question we always like to have some fun with. It's always off the wall. What is your favorite brand of store cookies? Not something you make at home. Store brand. What's the best?
You know what I used to really love?
What's that?
Is those soft batch.
Oh, okay. Like Keebler soft batch? Yeah.
And I just like the chocolate chip soft batch were so crazy. Like it was something. All the store-bought cookies were really hard and crispy, and when soft batch came out, it was like, this is something unreal.
Your whole life was building up to that moment, and there it is. There it is. Yes. Yeah. McNew, I've never asked McNew. McNew, what kind of cookies? This could be weird, so let's see what McNew's favorite one is.
Double stuffed Oreos.
Okay, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Yep. And it's one of the rare things where the double stuffed, I think, is better than the regular Oreos.
We know that we're all here for the middle. Of course, they're better. Give me more of that.
Now the ones they got called the thin. Why do they make that? Why is that on the show? Who wants it's like half the filling? No.
So whenever you think you have a stupid idea, know those exist and it got approved somewhere. Nobody wants those.
All right. What about our other guest, Mr. Rutledge? What would be your favorite brand of store brand cookies?
Probably what's already been mentioned, chocolate chip and Oreos. That's the two I usually buy.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong with that. I do like the soft batch, and then sometimes I will like the Chips Ahoy too. It depends on my mood. I don't know. I switch back and forth. It just depends. So.
Chips Ahoy are too hard.
They're good. And they're really good milk, by the way.
When soft batch came out, I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. I like that too, but I've drifted away from them now. I've gone back to the harder.
He keeps running into Jason at the store. You guys both go to the soft patch. It's funny to think of. Yeah. All right. Well, great job. Let's hear a round of applause for Mr. Jason Brauner for coming on and joining us tonight. Great guest. Of course, as always, we love talking to Jason. We'll wrap this thing up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Jason, we'll start with you. Where can people find you, buddy?
I am the Bluegrass Bourbon Baron on Instagram.
Okay.
And then we're, Buzzard, Roost, and Bourbon's Bistros out there.
Look for Buzzard's Roost. Yeah, it's search that and it'll come up, and follow them. And that's on all social media platforms.
Yeah.
Jim, how about you? Anything you want to share? Social media, website? I know you're not big into that yourself, but anything that they're telling you got to share?
No, I'm a dinosaur when it comes to that. We have someone that keeps our website going. And jwrutledge.com, I think. And I got on Facebook because she got on Facebook, and I get on now and then.
Right.
Not very often. It's
not your thing. Yeah, I get it. You're out there though. Whoever's doing that social media for you is doing a good job, because I do see a lot of posts, and of course you're featured on them and stuff like that. It kind of
she worked at Buffalo Trace with Stephen Camisa.
Okay.
And I've known her and her husband for quite a number of years.
Yeah. So she does a good job. So you're very relevant on all those social medias, because she's doing a good job keeping you out there. So yeah, it's cool stuff.
Good.
All right, McNew, how about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at McNew ABV.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find out there. I'm at Steve Akley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website at steveakley.com, but the important website is always abvnetwork.com. That's the one you check out. Everything that we do is out there. We put all of our previous shows. Believe it or not, we have over 3,000 podcasts you can download and listen to, all original content we've created out there at abvnetwork.com. McNew, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I would like to remind the audience, please hit that subscribe button on Bourbon Sasquatch on YouTube, where all of our shows will be posted. And when you're watching an episode, please give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, share it. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. And next week, we'll have Mary Beth and Paul Tomaszewski of MB Roland.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It'll be fun to hear what they've got going on. We're going to interview them separately, so that'll be kind of cool. And we'll find out exactly what both of them are doing at the distillery. Very fun stuff. One last round of applause for Mr. Rutledge and Mr. Brauner. Great job, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys so much. You can't believe it. For audience, we'll have that new show for you next week. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.